You will never own anything. The death of ownership is here, and the subscription model industry has quadrupled since 2014. Buy now, pay later is booming and debt is on the rise, and Gen Z are the guinea pigs in this new experiment. And now let's get back to Generation Z, who are nearly all hooked into these subscription models. They dominate nearly everything they do, including when they first wake up. But it isn't just their phones. If it's a weekday, most people in Generation Z will either be heading to school, college, or work, and most of them will be listening to music as they go. In this modern world, most people try to distract themselves from their surroundings in whatever way they can, all while keeping the dopamine pipeline flowing for the brain. Music is yet another massive industry that has fully embraced the subscription model. At first, it just wasn't feasible. The rise of Napster and other file sharing services made getting free music incredibly easy to access as long as you knew how to use a computer. The problem was there really wasn't any way to monetize this because it was nearly impossible to provide a better service than these shady websites did. The record labels just wouldn't let anyone do it legally. That was until Spotify came along and forced it all to change. They co-opted the file sharing business model for free, unlimited access, and they even illegally downloaded music to fill the first versions of the app. The only difference was that they played ball with the record labels and worked out a deal with them. By passing nearly all the costs onto the artist and the consumers, they convinced them to give up some of their control over the rights to the music. To this deal, all they needed was a simple subscription model to keep the money flowing in. It let the record companies redefine the deal with the artists, paying them fractions of pennies per stream rather than a cut of all their album sales. Consumers got a rough deal as well. In fact, we've actually lost so much with the subscription revolution, including the basic idea of ownership itself. Meanwhile, companies can abuse the many tricks that are now possible with this business model, as it's just so much easier to lure people into subscription models. Giving out free CDs or free samples of any product isn't guaranteed to make people come back, but free, easy to join trials on the other hand are far easier and much cheaper. Even if loads of people go in with the intention of cancelling it later, lots of them will forget. Most people just don't even realize how many subscriptions they really have. Some companies like Amazon set up traps by making a subscription the default option for some of their products. Meanwhile, they call it subscribe and save, implying they're doing all of this to save you money. And it's a problem that's growing surprisingly fast. Unused subscriptions went from costing the UK £306 million in 2022 to £688 million just 1 year later. And it's probably the same all across the Western world. The focus changes from the consumer making the active choice to buy something again to the consumer choosing not to continue paying. There was a short period in time where a Netflix subscription would give you tons of different films and shows to watch, but now all the content is split up across a dozen different apps, which all cost far more individually than the old Netflix used to. And you still get adverts on top, and it's almost worse than cable used to be, all without ever actually owning anything. So Generation Z are already on the back foot. Unlike previous generations, they don't own things like their music, and even without inflation, they're going to be paying far more than previous generations did for the exact same things. But unfortunately, subscription models aren't the only thing that's changing. Lots of the older members of Generation Z, after going through their morning routines, will end up at work. But lots of Generation Z is already checking out of the system because no matter how much they work, it isn't going to make their lives any better.